What's up, y'all? My name is Devontae, and I sacrificed my time so you don't have to. I figure I got a few minutes to kill before I gotta get dressed and go back to work. Back to the old grind, I guess. But I got a few couple of minutes. Can I just waste your time for a minute and talk about this whole Tony Khan backstage video that apparently he wants to release? Now, I was gonna plan on talking about it yesterday, but because it being WrestleMania Night 2 and because we kind of knew that Cody Rhodes was gonna win against Roman Reigns, I really wanted that video to stand on its own yesterday, and I really wanted that video to get out more so than this video right here. But now that everything is, done, the dust has settled for WrestleMania, we're getting right back into the groove of things when it comes to professional wrestling. Let me take the time to talk about this real quick. So, if you guys don't know, apparently Tony Khan was so fucking pissed about the whole interview with CM Punk and the MMA Hour stuff last week that he has said that he wants to release, and I quote, release the backstage altercation that happened at Wembley Stadium this upcoming Wednesday on Dynamite via the Young Bucks. And let me just say this. First and foremost, no matter what I say about Tony Khan, even in this video going forward, you got to give the man props. You ain't got to like him. You got to give him props, at least for this situation. That's smart. Now, granted, I don't know what that's going to do for the casual fans. I don't think the casual fans really give a shit about what happened in Wembley. Not to mention, I don't think the average casual fan even fucking knows what happened in Wembley, let alone the video footage that's going to be leaked. But, for the fans that he has immediate access to, I'm pretty sure that's going to probably give him a pretty decent number, at least for AEW standards. I mean, goddamn, if you're doing all this and you can't reach like at least 900,000 fans, right? I'm not expecting 1 million, obviously, but at least like 900,000 fans with the release footage. Like, damn, bro. I mean, now we have to come to the realization that, fuck, bro, like, people want to see fakeness in their wrestling. People want to see kayfabe in their wrestling. It's way more malleable. No one cares about shoot stuff like this. And I can't think of a better example if he releases this footage and he gets nothing out of it at all. But that's all I'm going to be when it comes to charitable to Tony Khan, is saying that, you know what? That's a pretty clever business move. I don't think you could put that past him. I feel like Vince McMahon would have done it back in the 90s. As a matter of fact, he sort of kind of did, not to that degree. But taking the Montreal screw job, taking Bret Hart punching him in the eye and sitting backstage and selling that fact by essentially getting over his new Mr. McMahon character and then using that to feud with Austin later on. Yeah, that's something Vince McMahon would have totally done. What Tony Khan did, if Vince McMahon had access to that footage in 1997, to Bret Hart punching him in the face in the way that he did without the documentary team, because obviously Bret wasn't gonna let Vince use that footage. If Vince had footage like that, yeah, Vince would have absolutely used it. I can't, especially if it's like nowadays, with the camera techniques and whatnot, and it being a clearer camera compared to where it would have been like in 1987. Vince would have definitely done that. You can't say that that's bad about Tony. But like I said, I'm rambling on about that right now. That's the only thing I can give charitable when discussing Tony Khan. Is this really a good idea for his narrative? Now, like I said, if this is some fucking grand master scheme that's apparently not in my mind right now, like if this is some way for him to, I don't know, like maybe he's pushing for a new character. I mean, for himself, I don't know. Like maybe I'm just thinking of different things. Like maybe Tony wants to be more of an on-screen character and he knows that this video footage will discredit him. Hence why the Young Bucks are doing it. And maybe this is his way of, introducing himself as a new character on television. It sounds stupid, obviously. It sounds absolutely far-fetched. But I'm just trying to give some reasoning as to why Tony would think that he will look good in this situation. Like I said, it's good for a number as far as people who are interested in it. But I mean, like, when you look at the actual footage in itself, right? I mean, everybody backstage says, oh, CM Punk put his hands on Jack Perry first, right? But, like, the narrative isn't going to be that, right? The narrative is going to be, like, okay, but Jack Perry went out there and he said what he said, and that's why CM Punk confronted him, right? So no matter what you see on the video footage, there are things that have already been confirmed that we know about that's not really going to change with the footage. Now, I'm happy that we can see the footage, but I mean, for an example, CM Punk most likely, I don't know, like hitting Jack Perry first. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that was the case. The only thing that would probably change my mind on the entire situation is if, like, CM Punk came to Jack Perry when he came, like, say that Jack Perry came from the curtain and, like, CM Punk, like, rushed over to his face or something like that. Like, Jack Perry didn't walk up to his face, like I'm assuming what happened. If CM Punk rushed to his face and looked him dead in the face and, like, fucking eased him up or something, or pressed him. If that happens to be the case, then that completely switches the entire trajectory of this narrative, in my opinion. But, like, if Jack Perry walks up to CM Punk, right, and CM Punk throws the first punch, then yeah, we know. Like, we know. Does he expect that to change the narrative because CM Punk punched him in the face? We all know CM Punk punched him in the face first. CM Punk said he punched him in the, or I guess choked. I wouldn't say, let me stop saying punch. Choke. That's something else too I probably said will maybe harm me a little bit as far as the narrative about all this. If CM Punk actually punched him, and I'm not saying attempting to throw a punch, because you could attempt to throw a punch, miss, and then he gets him in a chokehold. I'm fine with that. But if he actually did punch him in the face, that's different. And also the whole Tony Khan thing. I want to see, because that's, for me, I don't know for anybody else, for me, that's my main thing when coming about this, is did he actually lunge at Tony Khan? Because that's what they implied. They said that CM Punk lunged at Tony Khan. He tried to go for Tony Khan's neck, right? I want to see if that happens to be the case also. Because if Tony is just sitting there and he has headphones on and he's not doing anything, and CM Punk made it a point to lunge at him, then yeah, no, Punk is a piece of shit person for going after someone who he knows is weaker than him. Like I said, there are multiple ways of how you can look at this as far as it coming back to bite CM Punk in the ass, if it happens to be true. Or does it? Does it really come back to bite CM Punk in the face? Because that's what I'm looking at this, and that's where I'm trying to come to the conclusion of what is Tony trying to get out of this outside of just the viewership number, right? Because if he's trying to do the whole two birds with one stone thing with the viewers and also getting people to come back on his side, Tony, Punk is in WWE right now. The thing about this weird proxy war with wrestling fans when it comes to AEW and WWE is that neither one of the camps necessarily cares what happens to the other, right? So what I mean by that is Vince McMahon, for an example. Let's just take him as a hypothetical. Let's just say that all the stuff that happened with Janelle Grant, and you have a bunch of AEW wrestling fans who are being absolute blatant hypocrites as far as just condemning Vince, which I get the pattern of history would make you want to do that, but then why didn't you do the same thing with a Chris Jericho, right? And mind you, I think personally that Chris Jericho was, and I don't know the actual obvious situation because of the NDAs and all this stuff, but from what I can tell, from what I noticed, from what it looks like to me, it's pretty obvious that it just looks like a misunderstanding, and Kylie Rae took it and blew it completely out of proportion. You know, as far as, I mean, and here's the thing, she never really came out with an announcement. I think fans are on the behalf of Kylie Rae taking it and blowing it completely out of proportion, and Kylie Rae isn't doing anything to, like, you know, tell anyone that this is not that big of a deal. The guy hit on me and I ran out of the locker room. Essentially, it's what I get out of this, right? And with Vince McMahon, I think, obviously, with the interaction with him and Janelle Grant, I think, no matter how disgusting it was, I mean, I personally think, until I get any other news, that it was amicable. They both agreed to do these things. And that's just how I look at it, and that's just the way I see it. But listen to the AEW fanboys, it's condemn Vince and don't condemn Jericho. If you're not going to do one, then don't attempt to do the other, is what I'm saying, right? But that's just the way the wrestling fans think, right? It's such a weird, I don't know, I won't say dichotomy, but like, it's just such a weird thing today in wrestling that some initials, it's like politics, like, you know, you are a Democrat, so everything that a Republican does is horrible, and if you're a Republican, anything that a Democrat does is horrible, never mind the actual actions being taken are just horrible, no matter who does it. Like, you know, the AEW fanboys, they do the same thing to Vince, and the WWE fanboys do the same thing to AEW. So my thing is, with CM Punk now being in WWE, like, what does what does Tony Khan get out of this as far as like the two birds with one stone thing? Because let's just say hypothetically you come out with the footage, and I'm going to personally cover the news when you come out with the footage, and I'm going to be as impartial as I can possibly be, because I'm not the biggest fan of Tony. And actually, it's easier for me to be impartial because I don't like either one of these people. I don't like Tony Khan, and I don't like CM Punk. So for me, if there's anybody who can come out of this as far as being super unbiased and, you know, a partisan as far as being in the middle, or unpartisan, I guess, is someone like me, because I don't like either guy. I think they're both asshole, douchebag, pieces of shit people. But no one else is going to look at it like that. Tony, if you're on the AEW side, you're going to pretend as, like, say hypothetically, everything goes, I'm going to give both sides like this. Like, say Tony Khan, for an example, somehow proves that CM Punk did way more than what he's proclaiming. The WWE fanboys ain't going to care, because they're just going to come with, well, if Jack Perry didn't do this, that's always going to be an out. They don't care about the situation. It's just, if Jack Perry didn't do this, he started it. So there's really no reason to show the video if that happens to be the case. And if Tony Khan were to show the video and pretty much just validate everything that's already been said, which is pointless and redundant as fuck, then the AEW fanboys, they're just gonna be like, you see guys, everything that Tony Khan said was right. You know, Punk did hit Jack Perry first, to put his hands on Jack Perry first, even though we all know this to be the case, you know? Like, there's no winning out of this when it's all said and done, Tony. You get nothing. Like I said, if this is purely, strictly just a ratings ploy, then bravo. I get it. You're trying to reach as many people as you can with this footage. And again, I think it's completely niche. I don't think anyone necessarily gives a shit about this outside of the wrestling community. But you have an access, I would assume, to over 1 million fans as far as wrestling is considered. At the very least, I would dare say that people who are aware of AEW, at least from what I could tell from the peak number, unless the peak has absolutely dropped and we move the goalposts as far as the peak is considered, I would assume you're still having an access to over 1 million fans. And I think that's the goal in the end of the day, is to get people to watch. But see, that's the problem, Tony. See, the whole little shoot thing, I don't have a problem with, because this is something that's intriguing. But like, isn't that just going to be for that segment? And then people are going to leave in droves again. Like, it'd be one thing, and this is what Tony doesn't understand. This is what Tony doesn't get, and hopefully he understands this as time goes on, because it's getting kind of pitiful and getting kind of sad now. Yes, it's cool to have something that is a draw for your show that night, right? That's really, really cool. But what you are not counting on is, what does this do for the rest of the card? What does this do for the rest of the show? What does this do for the rest of the superstars, right? If you have a weak card with a really, really banging one match or one promo or one return, then that just does good for that segment. And then if everything else falls off and say gets around 600, 500, 400, 300,000 views, and within a segment, your show can still drop down to like 700,000 or whatever the case may be. And it makes you look mid as fuck. And because it's like you threw everything against the wall, including this Desperation Hail Mary. And it's like you still didn't do anything. When in reality, that segment did do something. It's just the rest of your card that fucking sucked. And it makes you look desperate. It makes you look like, hey, he just did whatever he wanted to do in order to get ratings. And you still look like you failed at it. When in reality, that segment did do something. It's just the rest of the segments, they didn't do anything. I think this, honestly, now, it's content for my channel. But as a guy who would have been in Tony Khan's position, I think it's a bad idea. I think it's a horrible idea, actually. I don't think there's any reason to have to go out of your way to do something like this. And it just kind of screams to you the position that Tony Khan is in right now, the desperation that he's currently in right now, how he feels, right? And it's like, people talked last night about Roman Reigns losing the championship belt because he couldn't get over his obsession with Seth Rollins. Well, it kind of seems like Tony Khan is doing the exact same thing metaphorically, but in real life. It's like he just can't get over CM Punk. He's making rash decisions that's putting him into a position that's making him look incompetent. Whether you're talking about the releases, which I still do subscribe to the theory that had it not been for CM Punk to say that, then hours later, Tony Khan wouldn't have released any of those talents. But he did it hours later after CM Punk had made those comments on the MMA Hour, right? I still believe that, like, this whole little scenario right now that's going on, it's just a way to get back at CM Punk, more so than it happens to be a ratings ploy. I think the ratings have something to do with it, absolutely. But his priority right now is to get back at CM Punk. Like, is that where your mind is right now, bro? He's really running marathon laps in your head right now. Like, nobody should get to you to the point where, like, they're doing that in your mind. Like, with Brett and Vince, you know, like, talked about that earlier. It was Brett that was over obsessed with the situation, and Vince just moved on. He didn't give a shit. He's about to be a billionaire. I just never seen a scenario where the guy who's actually the billionaire is the one obsessed with the wrestler and not the other way around. It's literally the anti-Vince Montreal Screwjob thing, right? It's the promoter who's obsessed with the wrestler who happens to already be a billionaire versus the millionaire boss who's about to become a billionaire while the wrestler is obsessed with him. I don't know, man. Look, I just wanted to give some few thoughts on this. There's only one way to figure out how everybody's going to react to this, and that's going to be on Wednesday when we see all this on Dynamite. I mean, the crazy thing about all this, you want to hear the crazy thing? And that's why I said, and I'll end it on this, between the shoot aspect of professional wrestling and the kayfabe aspect of professional wrestling, even though I really want to see that footage on Wednesday, like, I still want to see the fallout from WrestleMania even more tonight. Like, what does that tell you? Like, you can call me a WWE fanboy if you want to, but I think most people would agree, unless you're just that much in the AEW echo chamber, right? You want to see where Cody's feud is going to go next, right? You want to see what's going to happen with Sami Zayn as the Intercontinental Champion. You want to see what's going to happen with Roman Reigns going forward. You want to see what's going to happen with Bayley going forward. You want to see how they're going to plan out this tag team stuff on SmackDown and Raw. You want to see the future of the draft. There are multiple things in kayfabe that you can't wait to see in WWE. And tonight being one of those examples, versus Tony Khan still trying to play up to the internet fan base. And this is what you get. You get this right here. And honestly, as excited as I am to see that video, it doesn't really quite trump wanting to see what's going to happen with WWE. Hell, I'll even argue that I want to see NXT tomorrow night a lot more than I want to see AEW on Wednesday. Not to mention, once you get past that initial release of the video, does anyone give a fuck anymore? I certainly don't, but again, that's just me. But as always, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. We'll revisit this topic again on Dynamite going forward. I mean, unless something ridiculous breaks as far as AEW is considered. That's enough AEW talk. We'll get back to them on Wednesday. We're going to come back today for Raw, and then we'll talk about any other news regarding WWE tomorrow and NXT tomorrow night. So with that being said, I'll see you guys later on tonight for the Raw review. Again, don't forget, last time reviewing Raw for the next couple of months. Vacation time is over. My truck, it's back on schedule. Everything is back to normal. I will be reviewing NXT from now on out. That's the only thing that's going to change after coming out of this weekend. But we're going back to our previously scheduled events in regards to Raw. So this will be the epilogue heading out of WrestleMania. So be there or be square later on tonight. As always, my name is Devontae, and I'll be catching you guys later. Deuces, P-Eyes.